Live from deep in an underground bunker in East Tennessee, this is America's premier mortgage field services expert, Paul Williams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Foreclosurepedia Podcast. Foreclosurepedia Podcast, a presentation of the Foreclosurepedia Radio Network, which premieres each Sunday. The date is the 10th of September, 2017. The time is 20:30 hours Eastern Daylight Time. We have on the line right now Kenny Barrett. Kenny used to be a huge influence in the mortgage field services industry. He's down in Coral Springs, Florida. Kenny, are you out there?
Yes, sir. I'm here, Paul.
Hey, man, good to hear you. Look, hey, you were right there in Ground Zero. First, how are you and your family doing?
Well, fine. My brother, who works with me, used to work me in the industry, come over to help us out, and he's here too. So, place is buttoned up good, and most of it's. I think the worst is over. Put it that way. You know, as far as the wind goes, it was pretty bad today.
Can you walk us back a little bit before it made landfall and talk to us a little bit about what you saw happening? Things like, you know, the increase in winds, how that impacted structures, water. Are you dealing with storm surges? And did you see any type of military or police presence, you know, to keep looters out of there?
Okay. Well, first of all, you know, I'm a little leery about the weather reports. You know, this far out when they start telling you, say, a week ahead of time to, you know, evacuate, put up shutters, whatever, you know, because then people panic. Down here, they panic. Because you gotta, if you live, you know, you don't know until you live here a while. But we haven't had a bad hurricane in over a decade, so there's a lot of new residents here who never saw a hurricane, never lived through a hurricane. They don't get it. But they do panic, and they buy all the, you know, everything out of Publix store and the places like Home Depot and Lowe's. They get all the plywood and all that. So it's a big panic. All the gas gets bought up right away. So yeah, I didn't take it serious until a few days ago. You know, actually, to be honest, around Thursday, and they claimed it was going to come smack right up the middle into my town, Coral Springs, which, you know, in the end, today, everybody saw it went over to Naples, over to the West Coast, and those poor people were caught off guard, kind of, you know. Because a lot of people evacuated over to the West Coast, thinking we were going to get it bad here, but anyways, that's the way it goes. And, you know.
Did you? So when I was watching the news earlier today, I saw, and I might be wrong here, I wanted to say outside of Boca Raton, they were talking about tornadoes on the ground. Did you hear or experience that?
I've heard, yeah. Yeah, there were tornado warnings all day, but I haven't heard of any ones that touched down and did a lot of damage yet on the news. Because I haven't lost my electricity, which is a miracle. You know, I had a couple generators ready to go, and we still have electricity, so I have access to the news, the local news. So, and Boca is right up above me, a couple towns. I haven't heard anything about tornadoes, Paul. Not yet.
So, are you on city water or are you on well water?
We have city water, yeah.
Is your water still running? Have they? And I want to correct that. It wasn't Boca Raton. It was Fort Lauderdale. My bad. But that's on the east side. You know, and so here's the deal: west side's getting pummeled, east side getting tornadoes and insanity. Have they issued any warnings with respect to your city water? Is it still flowing?
Yeah, it's still flowing. Everything's working. They are recommending that you boil any water that you use. They say this stuff for every hurricane because it stirs up a lot of these canals and lakes, ponds actually, but they call them lakes down here, so.
From a structural point of view, there in your neighborhood and what you can see, how did everything fare with respect going, post-hurricane landfall?
Okay, well, I can give you a little history there. 25 years ago, I moved to South Florida after Hurricane Andrew. That destroyed parts of, all of Homestead basically, and parts of Miami. So I was living up in Maine at the time. Me and a buddy came down to do volunteer work, help out, this and that. It was like being in a war zone. It was, if you ever saw any footage of Andrew,
right?
You'll know what I mean. So, anyways, one thing led to another, and we got hooked up with a contractor down here, and he subbed out a bunch of work to us, rebuilding. So, me and my family ended up moving here. Because I lived here years before that. I was at Homestead Air Force Base, early 70s. So I was familiar with the area, and I always liked Florida. So, anyways, this is what brought to it. But so what was I getting at? Oh yeah, so post Andrew, they come up with the what they call the Miami-Dade building codes. They use it around the country now as the best building codes. In a hurricane or tornado area, I guess. So I had my roof done in my house. I feel pretty safe here in this house. My family was a little upset that, I was here, especially with my younger brother and stuff, but I felt pretty safe because when we did the roof about 10 years ago, I put all these hurricane straps, because I was familiar with a lot of that stuff. But anyways, that's how they build anything post-Andrew. In Broward County and most parts of Florida. Before that, it was real, it was shoddy workmanship, So I was a builder before I came down here, so it's kind of interesting to, we'd stick build up there,
right?
And down here everything's blocks and trusses. It's pretty easy to do.
We're getting reports in that today 2 of the cranes went down there in Miami. One, I guess, was over by the federal prison in front of the courthouse. Yeah. I guess, better to have only 2 cranes than all of them, but it would have been best not to have either 2. I want to tell everybody out there in the Foreclosurepedia Nation that Kenny sent us over a video. We're going to get that pieced in and out there as soon as we can. Going forward, is there anything that you need or you can anticipate needing, let's say, over the next week? Because I want to make sure everybody who's hearing me that we can get materials prepared and get down to you in the event you need them.
No, I don't, Paul. I'm going to be checking with my neighbors, to see how I can help around the neighborhood the next few days. Because usually, because I have some elderly neighbors that, they usually kind of count on me to help them out when things like this happen. So I already was outside. I can see I'm going to be using my chainsaw tomorrow at a couple of places. The trees went over. But other than that, I don't need anything. But what I do want to mention, I used to do a lot of property preservation. I'm not doing that any longer. I'm 65 years old, and what I'm going to do, and I got kind of an idea after what happened in Houston, Hurricane Harvey. I want to get back into just doing inspections only. I got certified a few years ago to do, insurance loss inspections. Richard. Richard Law.
Richard Law, yeah. Sophie.
Yeah.
Great friend. Great guy.
Yeah. Well, I took one of his courses. It was a 3-day course down here in Florida. And so whatever. In my course, I did a lot of inspections in the property preservation industry. The PCRs and the MEPs, the MEP reports and all that. So
Well, I'm going to tell you, and as soon as we're done here recording, just hold on the line off air. But look, so they're going to need tons of these underneath FEMA. All right, and so in full disclosure, we have a member of ours in the International Association of Field Service Technicians whose company was just granted preferred vendor status with the city of Corpus Christi. Now, how these federal monies are going to move as opposed to in the past, the good chunk of them are going to move through these municipalities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ensure, hey, look, skills like yours, look, that's a lifetime of experience. I'm going to get with that person. I'm going to make sure you're plugged in heavy, because that's the other thing on this water damage. I encourage you and everybody else. I spoke with FEMA day before yesterday, and they said, look, you have to take pictures of everything, even if it doesn't seem important. Now, it doesn't sound like you guys are getting into any flooding yet, but that's the other deal that they told me, dealing with these floods, that it may sound crazy. If you have flooding, you want pictures of the height of that water, and then pictures once it's receded. And I guess they're going to nitpick, but let me do that. First, let me close out real quickly here, and then hold on a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another edition of the Foreclosurepedia Podcast. We've been speaking live with Kenny Barrett down in Coral Springs, Florida, dealing with the Hurricane Irma tragedy and the tragic event thereof. This is Paul Williams. Everybody have a good night. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, you may reach me on Google Plus at Paul Williams, LinkedIn, Paul Williams, and the LinkedIn group Property Preservation Consortium, Twitter, Foreclosurepedia. We stream all our podcasts on iTunes, Foreclosurepedia. We have our screencasts over on YouTube, the Foreclosurepedia channel, and always at foreclosurepedia.org. We'd like to give a special shout out to Amazon.com, whom provides our S3 podcast and video storage, and Cloudflare for hosting Foreclosurepedia in 24 different geo-positioned servers, pro bono as well. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to give me a shout out, COO at foreclosurepedia.org.